So friends, I am Dr. Singla. I am serving as professor in private university near Chandigarh. So today I am going to discuss with you about the essentials of writing the research papers. So most of the young researchers, they are doing their research in the different areas, but when they want to convert their findings into the research paper, they find numerous difficulties, right? They basically face challenges in publishing their research work in the reputed journals. So I will talk about all the nitty-gritties, that what are the different points you have to take care of, right? So I'm sharing the screen. So let us discuss essentials for writing a research paper. So first of all, what is a research paper? It is a report prepared based upon the series of scientific experiment conducted in the laboratory or in the field, depending upon the uh, type of topic or the area of your research work. Further publication of this report in the reputed journal is the contribution of the researcher in the knowledge pool. So there are basically three types of research papers are there. One is a full length research paper. Another is the letters or the short communications. Third is the review paper, right? So full length research paper is basically, there is a difference among us the three categories based upon the length of the paper. Full length research paper generally, it may vary from 25 to 30 pages, in which specifically you will mention the findings that you have carried out after undergoing the experimentation using the different test rigs or the different characterization techniques. While in case of letters or short communications, their page length is approximately 2 to 4 pages, where you specify or where you mention only the key results of your findings. And third one is the review paper. Review paper is, let us say you start working on certain topics. So before that, you undergo the literature survey. You study the research papers already published by the different researchers in that area. Then you prepare the table and find out the gaps, and then you fix the objectives for your research paper. So generally review paper, it may vary from 50 pages page length to 100 page length, with the references more than 100. In general, it is more than 100, right? So it is the basically exhaustive literature survey, right, on the topic of your research paper. Why to learn? Then the question comes in our mind that why we need to learn the essentials for writing a research paper. Writing a research paper needs a major attention since it is a contribution of the researcher in the knowledge pool, which has to attract the wide readership across the globe. So in this graph, you can see along x-axis, I have mentioned the year. Along y-axis, I have mentioned the number. Means to my publications, how many researchers across the globe, they have cited my work, right? So you can see here the citation to my work, it went on increasing from 2010 and it was highest in 2015. So the more your research paper will be cited by the different researchers across the globe, it means more innovative your work is, right? So everybody would like to have maximum citations of his or her research paper, right? So generally the readers, reviewers and researchers, they lose the interest due to any one or all the following issues, right? So let us say you have published your research paper in the global knowledge pool. Then researchers, different researchers or different readers, they may lose interest due to one or all the following issues, like research paper do not follow the basic structure. So it means your research paper which you have published, it is lagging in the basic structure. Then poor selection of the title, poor writing of the abstract and conclusions, which fails to give the glimpse of the specific contribution, right? So components of the research paper. So generally, every research paper has following 6 components: title, abstract, introduction, experimentation, resultant discussion, and conclusion. So which parameter is most sought after by the readers? Like title, 80% of the readers, when they Google on the Google Scholar, 80% of the readers either select or reject the research paper to refer for their research work based upon the title of the research paper, right? Then 15% of the readers, they refer abstract and the conclusions. 4% readers, they read the introduction, and only 1% readers, they see the experimentation part and the result and discussion part, right? So from this, you can imagine that how important is to write the title and how important is to write abstract and the conclusion to attract the wide readership. So selection of the title, selection of the paper should communicate the main idea of your search work very early and clearly. What does it mean? It means when the reader will read the title, it should give an idea that what is inside the research paper. So it means title should be very crispy and should communicate the central idea of the research paper. For example, so I have taken the example, for example, number 1, study of mechanical properties and high temperature oxidation behavior of a novel cold spray nickel 20 chromium coating on boiler steel. So from this title, after reading this title number 1, the reader may come to know that the authors have done the study of mechanical property and high temperature oxidation behavior of the nickel 20 chromium coatings, which was basically deposited by cold spray process on boiler steel. So clear-cut indication that what will be inside the research paper. There will be some findings related to mechanical properties. There will be some findings related to high temperature oxidation behavior, right? Similarly, there is an example number 2, extraction and transport behavior of tripodal receptor, selective recovery of nickel ions and processing into nickel nanoparticles. It means the reader will come to know that the authors have basically extracted the nickel ions and then they have processed them to the nickel nanoparticles. Similarly, example number 3, image and video processing using discrete fractional transformation. It means the authors have processed the image and video using this technique, discrete fractional transforms. So abstract writing. Abstract is the summary of the whole paper, right? So abstract basically gives the concise picture of the problem. Novelty of the problem is also reflected. Generally, it has the limit of 300 words. And generally, abstract is written in the past tense. Like when we have completed the research, only then we start writing the paper, right? So that is why past tense is used to write the abstracts. So abstract structure has 5 parts: problem statement of the research, a short list of the existing solution and their drawbacks, a sense of the proposed solution, types of analysis done, major numerical highlights of the analysis. So these 5 parts should reflect in your abstract. So this is the example, right? And I have underlined the those 5 parts which I have talked about in the previous slide, right? So in the same way, you have to mention. So generally, sometimes authors, they write that sample, for example, they have tested 2 samples. So for micro hardness, So they will write sample A is having slightly better hardness than sample B. So this is the weak sentence, right? So always as a researcher, as a author of the research paper, you should write the quantitative values. You should write the sample A is having 10% high micro hardness than the sample B, right? So always talk about in terms of the quantitative values. So introduction writing. So introduction writing is also very important, and you have to take care of the fact that you have to write the introduction in the present tense. So following are the 5 points that you have to keep in mind. Number 1, it gives the general overview of the problem, existing solution and healthy criticism, specific statement about process model used along with history, literature, specific problem statement, how the solution suggested shall contribute to the knowledge pool, right? So these are the 5 parts that you have to take care of. So these 5 parts which I have talked about, I have mentioned in the example. So this is the example of the introduction of one of my research paper, right? So you can see in the different paragraphs, I have covered all the 5 parts, which I have talked about in the previous slide. Then experimentation writing. So experimentation writing, you have to take care of the fact that you have to write the source of the materials. For example, make, model, country, procured, right? Description of the process. Again, you have to mention make, model, country, and the parameters, right? Experimentation conditions, characterization techniques, details following the ASTM standard. So this is important because of the fact that like if you have used some local made machine, so there is a possibility that its least count may be very high, or there may be some standard error in that machine, right? So if you are using some USA based machines or German make machines, right, or Japanese machines, so there is a possibility that they have very less least count, and the probability of error reporting in the results will be less, right? So otherwise also your paper, like suppose you are sitting in India and you are writing a paper, you never know that tomorrow who will follow your research paper. So if you are you have done the characterization using the standardized machines which are acceptable across the globe, right? So then your research paper or your research will get the better validity. So you can see the example for the experimental details. So the 5 points which I have mentioned, I have covered here. So for example, you can see here, I have used the SEM machine for studying the microstructural behavior. So I have written make is Geol, right? And model is JSM 6610 LV, and country is Japan, right? Similarly, for optical microscope, Leica is the make. Then LMW V3.6.6 is the model, and Germany is the country, right? So in the same way, you have to do in your research paper. Similarly, I have mentioned the table 3, where I have reported the different parameters to be used. Then results and discussion. Reporting of results with the help of the graphs, images, discussion in the light of the reported literature. So you have to write the results and discussion in the present tense. So this is the example of the results and discussion which I have written in one of my research papers. You can see here, I have represented the results through the graphs. Then conclusions writing. As mentioned in the previous slide, conclusions attract 15% readers. So keeping this thing in mind, your conclusion should be crispy, and the results reported should be analytical with comparison to already reported results. Conclusions should be in the point form, right? So like if you will write the conclusions in the point form, it will attract wide readership rather than writing the conclusions in the paragraph form. And the conclusions you should write in the past tense. So this is the example of the conclusions, right? So you can see here, I have written the conclusions in the 4 different points. So where I have mentioned the analytical data also, quantitative data also. So then acknowledgement. Acknowledgement is most important part of the research paper. Acknowledgement means to pay gratitude or say thank you to the person or the agency who has provided you the funding. For example, in our paper, basically we were granted the funding by the Department of Science and Technology. So that is why I have written here, Harpreet Singh Eatal thankfully acknowledged the research grant from Department of Science and Technology. And I have also mentioned the number of the grant, right? So in the similar way, let us say some person has assisted you in carrying out your experimentation work. So you can write his name also in the acknowledgement. Then after acknowledgement, references. As per the order of their occurrence in the manuscript, style should be as per the template of the particular journal. So complete writing process is like first you will outline, then you will make the rough draft, then you will revise, edit, right, and so on. So how to publish? So here, with the help of the flow chart, I have explained completely, like you will finalize the manuscript. Once you have carried out the experimentation work, you will finalize the manuscript, keeping all the points which I have mentioned earlier into mind. Then you will see the plagiarism. Plagiarism means duplicacy checkup. Means whatsoever you have written in your research paper that has not been written by any other author in the past. So you have to take care of the fact that plagiarism should be less than 5%, right? And in order to check for the plagiarism, there are different tools available like Turnitin, PlagScan, DupliCheck, Copyscape. So these are the softwares. Few of them are freely available on the internet, right? So then after undergoing the plagiarism check, you will finalize the manuscript as per the journal's template. So after finalizing the manuscript, you will upload the manuscript on the online portal of the journal, right? So once you will upload the manuscript on the journal's portal, then after probably a time of 6 to 8 weeks, you will get the comments from the different reviewers. So when you will upload the manuscript, then the editor of that journal will basically forward your manuscript to the 3 reviewers across the globe who will be the expert in that particular area, right? So when those 3 reviewers will send the comments to the editor, then editor will compile those comments and send back to the author, right? So then authors will address the comments and again upload the revised manuscript on the journal's portal, right? So then you got the acceptance mail for your research paper. After 1 or 2 days, you will get the DOI number, that is data for identifier. And finally, maybe after a month, you will get the published copy of your research paper. So where volume number and number of pages will be allotted to your research paper. So it is my advice to all the young researchers that always publish in SCA indexed journals. So there are large number of reputed journals available, such as Elsevier, Springer, Taylor and Francis, IET Publishing, Manet Publishing, Ville IEEE, right? So they don't charge any penny, right? And your published work in these publishers journals will attract the wide readership and give you the acceptance across the globe, right? So this is all about the different facts that how to write the research paper. So now if you have any queries, you can write in the chat box. So I will try to address your doubts. So with this, thank you very much.